Michael's small apartment on a Monday morning looked like the studio of a chaotic artist. T-shirts draped over a chair, a cup of cold coffee, pale sunlight leaking through the curtains. He stood in front of a wall-mounted mirror, the kind you grab last minute from a supermarket, slightly warped at the edges, turning anyone into a subtly distorted version of themselves. But the most distorted thing that morning wasn't his reflection. It was the feeling inside his chest. Michael stared into the mirror and asked himself, "Do I even like the person in front of me?" No answer came, only a long sigh so long he grew tired of hearing himself exhale. It wasn't the messy hair or the dark circles from staying up late. What bothered him was the emptiness. Empty at the thought of all the habits he had let slip. Empty when remembering choices he knew were bad, but made anyway. Empty when looking at his Life City lawyer good salary, plenty of friends yet feeling no connection to himself at all. He had heard countless compliments. "Michael, you're amazing. You have everything people dream of. You're doing great." And somehow the more he heard them, the worse he felt. Like standing in a crowded room and still feeling unbearably alone. Then a dark truth flickered through him. He realized he had never actually had a healthy relationship with himself. He demanded excellence but never comforted himself. He forgave everyone but punished himself daily. He pleased society but abandoned the one person who mattered most, himself. Michael sat down, hands clasped, and for the first time in months, he didn't avoid the hard question, if I don't even like myself, how can I expect anyone else to fill this emptiness? It was a moment that stung sharp, uncomfortable, real. Perhaps the most honest moment he'd had in a long time. And then unexpectedly, from the dark corner of that thought came a thin sliver of light. A simple but powerful idea: if the relationship with myself is the root, then I can rebuild it from the ground up. He looked back at the mirror, not to check if he was okay, but to acknowledge something deeper. He had the right to begin again. He had the right to change the way he treated himself. He had the right to learn how to love himself, not after becoming perfect, but right now, right here in this mess. The emptiness was still there, but it no longer felt terrifying. For the first time, Michael wasn't running from it. He faced it, he understood it, and he knew everything would begin to change the day he decided to stop abandoning himself. Part 2, building self-love the same way you build a relationship. On a rainy afternoon in a quiet cafe, Sarah sat by the window like a faded silhouette. People around her were busy living their lives, a couple arguing softly, a student typing on a laptop, a young mother calming her restless child. Only Sarah sat still, hands gripping a cold cup of coffee, as if it were the only thing keeping her from falling apart. Inside her mind, the familiar dialogue resurfaced. I'm such a mess. Why did I ruin that again? When will I ever be good enough? No one said those words to her. She said them to herself every day, little by little, until they became background noise in her mind, like an old air conditioner that never turns off. She would never speak to someone she loves with that kind of cruelty. But toward herself, she showed no mercy. Sarah was endlessly patient with others, with coworkers who accidentally messed up with her best friend, stumbling through heartbreak with her family, even when they misunderstood her. But when she made a mistake, even a tiny one, she judged herself like a harsh, unforgiving prosecutor. And that severity pushed her further and further away from herself, like drifting apart from a once close friend you now avoid meeting. After a while, she picked up her phone and reread a message from a friend, "Treat yourself the way you treat the person you love." Those words hit her harder than the thunder outside. Sarah realized a painful but undeniable truth. She wanted others to love her while she had never learned how to love herself. And worse, she didn't even know where to start. But as with every turning point in life, it all began with one small shift. She tried replacing just one sentence in her head from, "I'm terrible at this," to "I'm learning to get better." At first it felt awkward, like wearing a new shirt that still smells like fabric dye. But she kept repeating it, and each repetition felt a little softer, a little truer. Then she changed one more thing. She made a tiny promise to herself, just one, a 10-minute walk every morning. Not to lose weight, not to improve, but to send herself one message: I can trust myself. After a week, she noticed something strange. It wasn't that she had become more perfect. It was that she disliked herself less. The inner criticism grew quieter, less sharp. And in the small spaces between her usual thoughts, she began to feel something she hadn't felt in a long time, a thread of connection with herself. She understood something important. Self-love isn't a feeling, it's a practice, a relationship that needs tending daily. And only when you treat yourself with kindness do you begin to feel truly worthy of love. Part 3, self-love is the foundation of lasting happiness. The glass doors of James's office building were polished so perfectly, they reflected everything with sharp clarity. The luxury cars parked outside, the warm gold glow of the reception desk, and the tense expression on his own face as he walked in. Today was supposed to be special. He had just been promoted, a new office, a higher salary, coworkers sending flowers, congratulatory emails flooding his inbox. But as he sat down in the sleek leather chair of his bright new office, James felt something he didn't dare admit. The joy had already faded, too quickly. When the door closed behind him, silence swept in like a cold breeze. He glanced around, new laptop, new planning board, a stunning view over the city. Yet somehow inside him was still the same hollow space no achievement could fill. He asked himself, why don't I feel happy? Is this success just as temporary as all the others? And the answer, when no one had to say, had been there all along. James's happiness was built entirely on things outside of him. And external things always change. One slightly annoyed comment from his boss, one failed project, one person who seemed more talented, and his entire world would collapse. Joy rushed in quickly and vanished just as quickly. James realized he had been living like someone holding a delicate clay pot, breathing lightly, stepping carefully, afraid that the slightest impact would shatter everything. But life cannot always be gentle. One afternoon, while eating alone in the cafeteria, he overheard two younger employees talking. Have you noticed some rich people aren't happy at all? And some people with almost nothing laugh all the time. A simple sentence, yet it pierced straight through his chest. Suddenly he saw himself the way you might look at a house built with many floors, but lacking a solid foundation. No wonder it trembled constantly. No wonder that, despite achieving so much, he still felt fragile. And then another thought, this time, not sad but clear, surfaced. Maybe I've been building happiness in the wrong place. I need to build it from the inside out, not the outside in. James started small. Each morning he spent 3 minutes asking himself, what do I need today to feel okay? Not what do others expect from me. Each night he wrote down one thing he appreciated about himself. And most importantly, he stopped letting other people decide how he felt. When he did these things, joy didn't arrive like fireworks. It arrived slowly, like sunlight emerging after a long gray day. But it stayed. It didn't fade. It didn't disappear with every setback. James finally understood true happiness isn't something you receive. It's something you build based on the way you see and value yourself. And once that foundation is solid, no storm is strong enough to bring you down. Part 4, boundaries. The door that protects your identity. In the warm kitchen of her small suburban home, Olivia was cleaning up the remnants of dinner. Her phone lit up again, the 8th time that day. Messages, calls, favors, complaints, requests from coworkers, friends, relatives, all pouring in as if she were a 24/7 rescue hotline. She stared at the screen, feeling a heavy weight sink into her chest. A bitter question echoed in her mind. Why do I have to show up for everyone even when I'm completely exhausted? Olivia was always praised as kind, thoughtful, someone who never says no. But no one knew that every time she said yes, a tiny piece inside her cracked a little more. She tried so hard to please everyone that she forgot herself. And worse, whenever she even thought about saying no, guilt hit her like a wave. Guilt for not helping, guilt for disappointing someone, guilt because she had lived so long as everyone's life buoy and never her own. One evening while peeling fruit, her phone rang again. This time it was an old coworker asking for urgent help with some documents. Olivia stared at the screen. Her hands trembled slightly. She knew she was exhausted. She knew all she wanted tonight was rest. But the reflexive response, "Sure, I'll try," was already rising to her lips. And then a thought flashed through her mind. If I don't protect my own time, who will? A boundary appeared in her mind, not as a cold wall, but as a door, one that must be closed at the right time to protect the peace inside. She took a deep breath. For the first time in months, Olivia typed a simple, direct message. I can't take on anything tonight. Wishing you the best with it, no long explanations. No excessive apologies. No justification. She hit send, and for the first 30 seconds, panic surged. Her heartbeat quickened. The fear of being disliked whispered in her ear. But then, a different feeling rose: lightness. A kind of lightness she hadn't felt in years, as if she had just reclaimed a piece of herself that had been occupied for too long. The next morning, she woke up realizing she had slept better. No one was angry, no one criticized her. The world went on. But Olivia was different, fuller, clearer, steadier. That day, she understood something important. Boundaries don't make people leave you. They make the right people stay. And even more importantly, a boundary is not an act against others. It's an act for yourself. From that moment on, she knew every boundary she set didn't just protect her time, it protected her true self. Part 5, saying no to protect your energy. On a late afternoon in the busy downtown, Daniel stood at a crosswalk surrounded by the roar of traffic. His phone buzzed nonstop in his hand, urgent meeting requests, calls for help, messages asking for opinions, all arriving with the same expectation Daniel would say yes, just like always. He looked at the notification list and exhaled a long, heavy breath, the kind that made even his shoulders drop. A bitter thought crossed his mind. People treat me like an endless container, but they have no idea I'm running empty. Daniel used to think saying yes was kindness. He believed enthusiasm made him reliable, competent, someone everyone liked. But in exchange, he had been losing pieces of his own energy day after day. He officially finished work at 6 p.m., but usually got home at 9. Not because he had too much to do, but because he couldn't say no to, "Hey, can you help me real quick?" Every reluctant yes was a tiny cut slicing into his health, his time, his sleep, his peace. One Friday evening, just as he sat on his sofa, not even having taken off his shoes yet, his phone rang again. This time it was a coworker asking him to review a report just 15 minutes. Daniel closed his eyes. He had no energy left, but the old habit of pleasing everyone was ready to rise again. Then suddenly a sentence from his father's old journal resurfaced in his mind. "Son, every time you say yes to someone, make sure it isn't a no to yourself." His hands trembled slightly as he held the phone. For the first time in a long time, he faced the truth. He wasn't a superhero, and he didn't need to be. Daniel typed a short message, but to him it felt as heavy as a mountain. "I can't take on any work tonight. Wishing you the best." He hit send, and instantly, panic surged. His heart pounded. The fear of being judged, of being seen as selfish, of being told he had changed came rushing in like a small storm. But just a few minutes later, when no one got angry, no drama erupted, no world collapsed, Daniel felt something strange. A warm, quiet wave of relief spreading through him. He realized he wasn't rejecting someone else. He was choosing himself. He was saying yes to his own health. He was saying yes to his peace. He was saying yes to the life he wanted to build. The next morning, he woke up without a headache, without tense shoulders, without feeling drained. A new feeling emerged, one he had never felt before. Power, inner strength, calm. Daniel finally understood true freedom doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from having the courage to say no when it protects your soul. From that day on, he made himself one rule. If something drains my energy instead of nourishing it, I will refuse it. No apologies, no justifications, no guilt. And something magical happened. People who respected him stayed. People who only wanted to exploit his kindness drifted away. Daniel became less overwhelmed, less exhausted, and far more peaceful. He chose himself, and life began choosing him back. Part 6, letting go of those who don't value you and forgiving yourself. Late afternoon at Riverside Park. Emma sat alone on an old wooden bench. The late fall chill lingered in the air, leaves scattered around her feet, families nearby, chatting happily. Only Emma remained silent, her eyes fixed on the empty space ahead, the very spot where she used to sit with the person she tried to hold on to for months. The most painful part wasn't that he left. The most painful part was knowing he had emotionally left long ago, while she kept clinging to the remnants of an old version of him that once made her happy. She asked herself, how could I love someone who no longer sees me as a choice? And deeper still, why did I stay so long in a place where I was no longer valued? Emma had blamed herself over and over. She blamed herself for giving too much, for not leaving sooner, for holding on when every sign pointed the other way. But the truth, as hard as it was to admit, remained she didn't love the wrong person. She just loved too long the version of him she had created in her mind. That version no longer existed, but her heart hadn't caught up yet. One afternoon, as she watched boats drift slowly along the Hudson River, Emma overheard two strangers walking by. You know, holding on to someone who doesn't value you is like clinging to a wilted flower and hoping it will bloom again. The words pierced her like a tiny needle, small but deep. She understood the relationship wasn't alive anymore, and she was trying to hold on to something already dead. Her tears fell not because she lost him, but because she had lost herself trying to keep him. And then another thought, gentle but decisive, arose. I can't keep hurting myself over a version that no longer exists. Emma stood up, walked to the riverbank, and released the dry leaf she had been holding. Not a ritual, not symbolism for anyone else. Just a simple act to tell herself, I choose to let go. Letting go of someone who doesn't appreciate you isn't coldness. It's self-respect. It's protecting your future from being trapped in a chapter that has already ended. But Emma knew letting go wasn't enough. She had one more person to face, the one she had judged the harshest, herself. Forgiving yourself isn't easy. It demands ruthless honesty, looking straight at the mistake without disguising it. But it also requires gentleness, something Emma had rarely given herself. She closed her eyes and whispered, I chose wrong. I hoped too long, but I still deserve love, and I still deserve forgiveness. In that moment, something inside her softened. The self-blame quieted. The emptiness felt less frightening, and in its place came something new. Lightness, air, the quiet feeling of being given back to herself. Letting go of someone who doesn't value you is how you return to your identity. Forgiving yourself is how you enter the next chapter without dragging the darkness of the last one with you. That day, Emma left the park with red eyes but a brighter heart. She knew. She didn't lose someone. She found herself again. Part 7, Quieting the Inner Critic. The gym at 6 a.m. had only a handful of people. The mirrors were fogged with the breath of those trying to push beyond themselves. Lucas stood in front of the mirror, hands resting on the barbell, but his feet felt glued to the floor. Not because his body was tired, but because the familiar voice in his head had just woken up. Don't bother, you're going to quit again, like always. You look ridiculous trying to act strong. People have eyes, you know. Everyone can see you're not good enough. Lucas swallowed hard. He'd heard that voice for years, long enough that sometimes he believed it was the truth. In school, he had been mocked for his appearance. At his old job, a harsh manager constantly told him he was too slow, not good enough. And over time, those external voices became internal ones. Now, even when no one heard him anymore, he continued doing the job for them. He had become his own silent bully. Lucas closed his eyes as loud gym music pulsed around him. A question surfaced. Why do I believe these words more than the truth about myself? Fear answered for him because it's familiar, because it feels safer, because it keeps you from facing failure. He opened his eyes and looked around. Everyone carried their own anxieties and their expressions, yet they kept moving, kept trying. And for the first time, a thought sparked. Maybe the voice in my head is just an old habit. Not the truth. He tried something he had never done before. He responded to it. No, you can't prove I'll fail. No, I don't look ridiculous. I'm trying. No, I'm not perfect, but I'm better than yesterday. At first, those replies were shaky, uncertain, like talking to a stranger. But he kept going, and each time he answered back, the inner critic faded just a little. Lucas placed his hands on the barbell again. The negative voice whispered, weaker now, but still there, you can't do this. He tightened his grip and whispered back, loud enough for himself to hear, I don't know how to do it well yet, but I can learn. And I won't stay silent and let fear speak for me anymore. He lifted the barbell, not perfectly, not gracefully, not like the fitness videos online, but it was the first time he lifted not only the weight, but himself. When the workout ended, Lucas looked into the mirror again, not to check his physique, but to meet his own eyes and see something he hadn't seen in years. A man who wasn't perfect, but brave enough to stop believing the voice that hurt him. He smiled a small, quiet smile. Not one of pride, but one of someone who had just reclaimed control over the most important territory, his own mind. Part 8, Self-Care. The small investments that nurture your self-respect. Maya's 12th floor apartment at 11 p.m. was lit only by the dim glow of a desk lamp. Her laptop had 3 tabs open. Her phone kept blinking and the dishes were still piled in the sink. Maya slumped in her chair, head in her hands, feeling as if someone had placed the entire world on her shoulders. She'd eaten a granola bar for dinner, downed 3 cups of coffee, and called it good enough. In reality, her body was running on fumes. But Maya was used to pushing herself to the limit and pretending nothing was wrong. The saddest part was, she had promised herself so many things: go to bed earlier, eat real meals, exercise regularly, turn off her phone before sleeping. But each promise was like a sticky note slapped on in a rush, ready to fall off the moment her day got busy. That night, when she looked into the bathroom mirror, Maya startled at her own tired eyes. A thought surfaced, one she hadn't dared to think for months. Why am I treating myself like a stranger? She poured her care, patience, and empathy into colleagues, friends, and family. But for herself, she gave the leftovers, the scraps, the drained, burnt-out version of her. She felt sad enough that tears slipped down her cheeks when she touched her own face. It wasn't self-hatred. It was self-neglect. She had forgotten to care for the one person who had been with her through everything herself. Maya opened the fridge. Empty. Not because she lacked money, but because she had never considered making meals for herself a priority. A line she once read from Seneca floated up. No one is poorer than the person who does not cherish what they have. And she realized her body, her mind, her heart, these were things she had yet never truly cherished. That night wasn't a grand transformation. Just one small decision. Maya boiled water, grabbed vegetables and rice, and cooked a simple meal. She sat at the table and ate slowly. No screen, no messages, no rush. For the first time in months, she treated herself like someone who mattered. And the miracle, the feeling, stayed. Warm, quiet. It made her want to be kinder to herself again. The next day, Maya set 3 small deposits for herself: 10 minutes of morning meditation, 1 proper meal a day, a 15-minute walk with no phone. Tiny, ordinary to most people. But to Maya, they were promises kept. And when she kept promises to herself, something beautiful happened. She began to trust herself again. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because she was nurturing the most important person she had, herself. Maya finally understood self-care isn't a reward you only deserve when you are perfect. It's the foundation of self-respect. A reminder I matter, I have value, and I must be the first one to recognize that. Part 9, Learning to Enjoy Being Alone, the Art of No Longer Feeling Lonely. Sunset fell over the Lakewood Pier, the water reflecting a soft wash of pale orange. Ethan stood by the wooden railing, watching the small boats resting quietly at the dock. The breeze was gentle, but inside him everything felt unbearably heavy. He had been afraid of being alone for years, not because he needed a specific person, but because he was terrified of facing himself. Being alone meant hearing the questions he always avoided. Why am I not good enough yet? Am I even worthy of love? Whose life am I actually living? So he filled every empty space with noise: podcasts while eating, music in the shower, YouTube at bedtime, texts from friends and acquaintances, anything to keep silence away. But tonight, when Ethan checked his phone, no one replied. No notifications, no pings, nothing. A hollow feeling swept through him, the very feeling he'd been running from. He leaned on the railing, staring at the still lake, and for the first time in months, he took a deep breath without turning on music to drown himself. The silence unsettled him. It even frightened him a little. But then he realized something else. Maybe what he feared wasn't loneliness. Maybe he feared the truth he had never given himself a chance to hear. He sat at the end of the pier, the wooden bench cold beneath him, letting his legs dangle above the water. No phone, no noise, no one telling him who to be. Just him and the presence of himself. At first, his mind raced. Old anxieties rushed in. Silent self-criticism flickered through him. He felt like a stranger in his own life. But then something strange happened. The silence softened. The sound of water brushing against the pier grew clearer. The breeze touched his skin more gently. And beneath the layers of negative thoughts, Ethan finally heard another voice, small but unmistakably clear. I'm not weak. I just never gave myself a chance to be heard. He realized being alone is not a punishment. It's an opportunity to find yourself without the pull of expectations or the noise of the outside world. As he began feeling comfortable in the quiet, Ethan smiled. A tiny smile, but one that came from the deepest place. Because he had just understood something people spend lifetimes trying to learn. When you can be alone without feeling lonely, no person and no circumstance can ever control your emotions again. In other words, you become free. You become whole. You become complete even with no one beside you. That night, Ethan walked away from the pier with lighter steps and a calmer heart. He wasn't afraid of silence anymore. He was beginning to love it, because he finally understood, when you learn to enjoy your own company, you will never feel lost in this world again. Part 10. Building confidence through action and gratitude for yourself. Ava's small attic room was lit only by the soft glow of a yellow desk lamp. Beside her sat a big project she had delayed for 3 months, not because she didn't want to do it, but because the fear of failure always stood guard right at the door. Ava stared at the blank page in front of her, and that familiar feeling rose again. I'm not good enough. I'm not confident enough. I need to wait until I'm more ready. But over the years, she realized a painful truth. She had waited for confidence so long that she missed dozens of opportunities. Each time she waited, another chance slipped away. Each time she waited, fear grew a little stronger. Tonight, Ava felt trapped in an invisible loop, not acting because she lacked confidence, and lacking confidence because she wasn't acting. She tapped her fist lightly on the table and whispered, "Is this really how my life is going to be forever?" Then she remembered something an old mentor once told her. Confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you build from the small actions you complete. The sentence cut through the fog in her mind. Ava realized confidence isn't a spotlight that suddenly shines on you. It's a brick you lay down every time you keep a promise to yourself. Not by doing something huge, not by being perfect, but by starting. So she set the smallest goal possible. Work for 10 minutes. Just 10. She started a timer. The first 10 minutes crawled by painfully slowly. Fear tried to pull her hands away from the keyboard. But she didn't get up. She stayed. And something magical happened. 10 minutes became 20. 20 became 40. Then an hour. When she typed the final sentence, Ava laughed a laugh of relief, softness, and quiet pride. Not because the project was perfect, but because she had won against the part inside her that always held her back. That night, she wrote 3 things she was grateful for about herself. I dared to begin. I kept my 10-minute promise. I proved I'm not as weak as fear says. And for the first time, confidence didn't feel like something far away. It felt like something growing from small actions repeated enough times to become strength. Ava understood, if you never learn to clap for yourself, no one else can do it for you forever. She closed her eyes, breathed deeply, and smiled. I am enough. I am moving forward, and I will never abandon myself again. If you've read this far, it means you truly care about becoming a stronger version of yourself. And I want to invite you to keep walking this path, the path of peace, discipline, wisdom, and self-mastery through Stoic principles. Leave a comment. What moved you the most in these 10 chapters? Like and subscribe to Easy Stoic so you don't miss the next lesson, stories and tools to become calm, strong, and unshakable. Share this video to spread self-confidence and self-love to someone who needs it. Thank you for being here. And remember, you are strong enough to rise, worthy enough to be loved, and powerful enough to rewrite your life starting today.